Oh, hi! This is a short clip from me and Milo's interview with David Bentley Hart that we conducted a few months ago. In this clip, Hart talks about dreams, how seriously he takes dreams, about his father's ability to tell the future in dreams. Do dreams merely contain symbols which we can analyze in a sort of post-Freudian way? Or are dreams showing us things beyond ourselves, things which aren't from our subconscious but from elsewhere? Please watch the full interview if you haven't already. Please like and subscribe to our channel if you like what me and Milo are doing here. Leave a comment. We also have a Patreon where, alongside our long-form interviews, we do upload 45 minutes to an hour of extra material. Milo and I love hosting these conversations with academics in the humanities about their work. We think we're doing something that isn't really anywhere else in quite the same way. It would be wonderful if you could help us continue to do what we are doing. But without any further ado, here is DBH.
Dreams should be taken very seriously. I don't live intellectually in a purely post-Freudian milieu. It's not the way I think. I don't think that the purpose of what we should be doing in dreams is decoding them as psychological messages that we're sending to ourselves out of the depths of the unconscious. I'm not discounting that. I think that's some element of it. But I do think there's a porousness to consciousness that we experience in other ways as well. You can just have cases of odd synchronicities across distances with friends, or moments when you understand another person and he or she understands you, or, as has also happened to me in dreams, dreaming something before it happened, detail by detail, at least on 3 instances. And that used to happen to my father all the time, actually. My father would have very vivid, elaborate dreams, and sometimes would describe them to us, and then they would come to pass under circumstances that we could not possibly, any of us, have predicted, and that we were witnesses to them, and he had already told us about them.
Do you remember any specific examples of
yeah,
dreams your
well,
father told you?
Yeah, I can think of 2. One was him describing a place in London, and he was not planning. There was no plan to go to London. It's just that I ended up going to London on the way to university studying, and they decided to come over. It was but part of London my father had never been in before, but he had described completely this gate of an older, maybe 15th century gate that actually is not much of an historical site at all. It just happens to have persisted and preserved. And the person we talked to, we met on the pavement on the way, what he said to us, and then it happened. And there was no way when he had the dream he knew the 3 of us would be there in London. But the most elaborate one of all that I recall was, what's funny about these dreams is they're often quite trivial. It's not like I had one dream once in which it was very important. What happened was very important. It was a good thing I'd had the dream because it averted something. But otherwise, it's always something very trivial, like, I had a tomato sandwich and met someone from Sweden at the bookstore at the university. It was like that. There's no reason to have a fatidic premonition of this. In my father's case, it was, during a snowstorm, he and my mother were driving, and this was the dream. And he didn't recognize the place, but there was this beautiful house among this great stand of high trees, most of them conifers, and they pulled up, and the man came out in a red sweater. And why he was telling us this dream, I don't know. But first, because it was very vivid. It was almost like he was really there. And his wife made them coffee while they got directions and waited for the snow to clear up a bit. And then 7 months later, it happened to the 2 of them. When in those days you didn't have GPS, so you could actually get lost. And we also didn't have, a snowstorm could actually sneak up on you if you weren't paying attention to the radio. So again, nothing of great moment, but nonetheless, we could verify that he had had this dream. He'd mentioned it to us for some reason, and then it had come true. So I take dreams very seriously. I don't know what they are exactly, but in most ancient cultures, most traditional cultures, it's not the case that visions are flooding into your mind, usually, if you look at the dream literature, at least if the dreams are true. They're sent. The dream is often sent in a personified form by the manes below, for instance, in Roman religion. But it can be false or true. But more specifically, what a dream is the soul venturing away from you and going to some other place, other dimension, and experiencing something that you can't, making a visit, sometimes a sacred visit. And of course, in ancient culture, it was a way of seeing the god. If you were looking for healing from Aesculapius, you would try to have a dream in the temple of, you would sleep literally on a pallet or another god in the forecourt and ask for a dream. And if the dream came, it could be a vaticination, it could tell you, or it could be healing in the case of that. And I'm just superstitious enough to believe that this is what dreams are. They really are a place where the mind, where the consciousness is in communion at large with something beyond itself, and also deeper within itself at the same time.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea, because I was thinking while you were talking about how dreams are, at least for me, and maybe this can be contradicted, almost completely a visual medium. There is sound, but often not coherent. I'm not sure if I've ever listened to a full song in a dream. Taste, very dubious if I've had really excellent taste. And smell, again, vaguely there, but sight, vivid sight. And so it lends itself to visual reproduction. And we've already spoken about cinema as a kind of visual dream, a daydream. But curiously, most cinema being post-Freudian, sort of explicitly, dreams in cinema tend to be rendered in these extremely symbolic. There's a clock with no hands on it, and you sort of.
What's the Hitchcock film?
Spellbound. Spellbound.
You get this glorious dream designed by Dali, and then they very boringly
and turn it into this boring point by point. Easily, Oh, by the way, I should mention Ingrid Bergman might have been my very first love affair. I knew it was hopeless. Yeah, Ingrid and I were not destined to be. It's funny because
there are people like David Lynch who who does seem like a he has, if not a pre-Freudian, then at least a non-Freudian dream relationship.
I think that's true.
I'm sort of rewatching the Twin Peaks at the moment, and their dreams are very much the gateway into this other world.
Sadly, of course, with Twin Peaks, I was a contemporary of that great moment in Western culture, is that when the network forced them to bring the Who Killed Laura Palmer story to a premature close in the 9th episode, then Lynch sort of increasingly lost interest in the program, and it goes downhill. But up
with
to
the
that,
exception of the last episode of season 2, which is extraordinary, one of the most vivid dream world depictions in anything.
Again, I believe, but he was back. He took charge of that one himself, that episode himself. But season 2, I think it's episode 9 when the mystery is solved. And
there's a scene in the film, the Fire Walk with Me, that was very visually similar to something that happens in Thresholds, and I won't give it away, but the final sort of image in Thresholds, which is someone sort of backing from a mirror and holding a
that one I want to be a surprise if I can convince people to buy and read.
There is a scene in Fire Walk with Me where Laura Palmer has hung a painting on her wall that these emissaries of the next world have given to her, and the precise way in which she sees herself in the painting mirrors the the thresholds.
Now I have to go back and look at that. I haven't seen that film for a long time. I actually, when it first came out, went to a viewing of it at the local cinema during the day. I was at the University of Virginia at the time with my friend, a friend named Joseph Harder. We were literally the only two people there. They played the film just for the two of us, so we knew this was not destined to be a great moneymaker. The critics uniformly hated it at the time, and we both found it
in the United States.
Yeah, but we both found it extraordinarily moving, and I mean that where the end where Laura isn't, she didn't fall; she was caught by the angel, so to speak. Yeah,
it feels like looking at an angel. It's very rare that you have a film that has an encounter with an angel that doesn't feel like an encounter with someone dressed as an angel.
But yeah, no, David Lynch suffered extraordinary hostility in this country from critics who decided that they wanted him just to keep making The Elephant Man over and over again or something. It was of course, Dune hadn't been a critical success, but it was so chopped up by the cinema, by the studio, that it's hard to know what would have been made of it. I still think that it's far better than the things these rather hard. I went to see the two. I don't know why, but I like David Lynch's because it had a dreamlike, at times nightmarish, but at times genuinely dreamlike quality to it that had a weirdness and a strangeness and an otherworldliness that suggested to me, But anyway, that's obviously the least important of his films. It's funny you mentioned Lynch. I'm quite a partisan of the Lynchians. I think Mulholland Drive, for instance, is.
I think it's the best film that came out in my lifetime. I think, and he died on my 30th birthday, and so
rose up to heaven, born by angels, just like Patrick McNee. The same thing happened when he died. Yeah?
I recall that.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoyed. Look at the Patreon link down below, and keep it real, yeah.